so excited to have you all here for Top of the Charts All About Notation. Today, we are joined by composer-lyricist and challenge music supervisor, Dylan Glatthorn, who will be leading us into a workshop all about music notation and how to translate your music onto the page. But before we top the charts, let's chat a little more about the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students and Draft 2. Here at NAMPT, our mission is to support musical theater development, production, innovation, and collaboration. We're a member service organization for the musical theater field, and our members include regional theaters, academic institutions, presenters, producers, and students. We do this through a number of programs, including our annual Festival of New Musicals, our semi-annual education conferences, our 2 granting programs, and of course, the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students, an initiative of the National Endowment for the Arts. Being involved in the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge is an exciting artistic journey. You have all written a song that could be part of a musical and submitted that song to Draft 1. Your songs are reviewed by a wide panel of NAMPT members, artists, challenge partners, and more. And you received an email on March 14th with feedback on your song. So really quickly, before we keep going, how did it feel to get that feedback? What thoughts and questions do you have about the feedback you received? We hope it was helpful. We hope it was exciting to hear all those different folks read your work and listen to your work and share their thoughts about it. And if you have questions about it, you can always ask us. So now that you've gotten your feedback, you have the opportunity to reshape your song based on the feedback you received and submit your song again in our Draft 2 round. You'll show us how you've implemented those notes and give us more information about the character and narrative development within the song. This is the competitive round in contention for Winners Weekend. And so looking at the timeline of this program, here's what's coming up. So you've received feedback on your Draft 1 submission, and Draft 2 is now open. You have until April 11th to implement the feedback you received and revise your song for Draft 2. Draft 2 submissions will close April 11th. Songs will be evaluated, and a handful of winners will be selected and invited to Winners Weekend in New York City to fully immerse in all things theater from June 13th to 17th, 2025. To help you prepare for Draft 2, head on over to NAMPT's Songwriting Resource Center at nampt.org/rewriting. The theme of the Resource Center is Writing is Rewriting and Rewriting. And this is your one-stop shop for anything you might need to help you with the rewriting process. So if you go online, you'll find learning modules and writing exercises, upcoming challenge events, recordings of previous events, a video playlist of songwriting tips, and at the bottom of the page, where to submit to Draft 2. And new to the Resource Center this year are learning modules 4, 5, and 6 on digital audio workstations, or DAWs, music notation, and how to go from scene to song. Each of these modules corresponds with one of our events this month. And we've also included the New at NAMPT Season 2 podcast episodes with conversations from last year's Songwriting Challenge winners. So if at any point during your rewriting journey you're feeling stuck or looking for inspiration, the Resource Center is there for you, and you can find all of that at nampt.org/rewriting. So in addition to tonight's exciting event, we have some more exciting events coming up for you as you prepare to submit your song for Draft 2. Next Monday, March 31st, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern, join Rebecca Greer-Milosic and Jacob Yandora, the writers of Broadway's How to Dance in Ohio, for the Collab Lab, From Scene to Song. This event will be your chance to collaborate with a fellow participant of the Songwriting Challenge and write a song together. Students will be paired up in teams to write an original song together based on a famous movie scene. It's going to be so much fun, so you don't want to miss out. The following week, join us Monday, April 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern for Spring Break Songshare. This unique virtual event offers you a one-on-one mini session with a seasoned musical theater writer, including Chaz Cardigan, Veronica Mansour, Jariah Kwame, and Abs Wilson. Drop in anytime and get feedback on your song right before Draft 2 submissions are due. You can learn more and register now for all of the upcoming challenge events at nampt.org/rewriting. Let's talk a little bit more about Draft 2 submissions. So Draft 2 submissions are due Friday, April 11th by 11:59 p.m. local time. You're going to go to nampt.org/rewriting and scroll down to the bottom of the page. And that's where you're going to see this button that says Submit to Draft 2. This will take you into Submittable, which is the same platform you use to submit to Draft 1. And so for draft 2 submissions, you will need to submit a revised demo and lyrics with the option to upload sheet music and respond to 2 short answer questions. You should have received an email from Submittable with the link to submit to draft 2. Remember, you must submit a revised draft of your song in draft 2 to be eligible for Winners Weekend in June. So after we receive submissions in draft 2, a cohort of winners representing the breadth and depth of submissions sent in will be selected. Students will be matched with a mentor writer to discuss their winning song and coach them through skill building, technique, process, lifestyle, and anything you can really imagine. Students will also meet with our music team, who will develop the orchestrations, build out charts, and help bring to life the music that the student has written and tried to capture in their submission demo. And this is all working toward a one-night-only concert event of the winning songs and more in NYC featuring Broadway talent that'll be live streamed and captured nationwide. And finally, there will be even more. We'll see shows and meet those working on stage and off to have a fully rounded experience on Broadway. So remember, there are interactive workshop opportunities throughout the submission process for all student participants to be a part of. And for a full list of upcoming events, go to namp.org/challenge. Now, I am so excited to turn things over to Dylan Glatthorn as we explore all things music notation. Dylan, take it away.
Hello, everyone. It's so exciting to see a lot of familiar faces here. If possible, I'd love to see more faces if you want to turn on your cameras, but I also understand if you're at a location where you can't do that, but it would just be great to be able to not talk into the void. So my name is Dylan Glatthorn, he, him. I am the Challenge Music Supervisor, and I am also an Amped Festival of New Musicals alumni writer as the composer and co-lyricist of the Pelican, and grantee of NAMP's Frank Young Fund. I am super excited for us to get started today on how to translate your song from a demo to the page. Now, just a little bit about me and my relationship with music notation. Notation was by no means my gateway into music. At an early age, I began playing music by ear with almost no knowledge of notation or sheet music. And this is very common for many of today's composers. I'm sure a lot of you had a similar journey into music, playing it by ear. It really wasn't until high school that I began formally studying music theory. And once I started digging deeper into it, I became endlessly fascinated by it. I then went on to study music theory and composition at NYU for both undergrad and grad school. That's how excited it got me. Sheet music, while imperfect, is the best tool we have to help bring our compositions to life, especially as musical theater songwriters. So we'll start today by discussing what notation is and just reviewing some basic music theory and what you might see on the page. Then we'll look at 2 examples of sheet music and end with starting to build out some sheet music together from a new song of mine. So a lot of the information we'll be using today can be found in Module 5, Music Notation, on the NAMPT Songwriting Resource Center at nampt.org/module 5. So you can type questions into the chat as we go, and if we are able to pause, for questions, we absolutely will. There will also be a Q&A at the end, so if we don't get to your question in the moment, we will get to it later. All right, so what is music notation? Let's start by discussing what music notation is and the kinds you might see or be familiar with. Music notation is the system of writing down music using symbols to represent pitch, rhythm, dynamics, and articulation. So in my experience, notation is really about putting as much information about your song onto the page as you can. In a sense, sheet music is an approximation. It's trying to take the clearest snapshot of what we hear in our heads. So don't let perfection be the enemy of getting something onto the page, especially for first drafts. Just get something down, and you can and will always continue to edit. So sheet music is a printed or digital version of music notation, and it can range from being for a single instrument to a full orchestra. There are a few different types of sheet music. So let's start with a lead sheet. Has anyone heard of a lead sheet before, or written out a lead sheet or played off a lead sheet? Awesome. See a lot of hands. So a lead sheet is simplified sheet music, right? It includes a melody, lyrics, and chord symbols. It does not have full accompaniment. It's used generally for improvisation or a quick reference point. Lead sheets are commonly used in jazz, pop, and contemporary music. But creating a lead sheet can be extremely useful if you're just looking to get something on the page without getting bogged down in what the accompaniment is just yet. So lead sheets can also be super helpful for passing along very basic information to an arranger. Say, for instance, that you wrote your song on guitar, but an arranger might be needing to create a piano vocal arrangement for publication. A lead sheet should be enough, along with a solid demo, to pass along the fundamental ideas of your song to the arranger. All right, so let's get to the piano vocal score. Now, hands raised, who's written, read, played along with a piano vocal score, sung along with the piano vocal score? Who's heard the term piano vocal score? Cool, I see some hands. It's totally cool if you haven't. So like a lead sheet, a piano vocal score includes vocal, melody, and lyrics, but it also includes a fully notated piano accompaniment. And these days, chord symbols are also pretty standard to include on a piano vocal score. So commonly used for musical theater, pop, and choral arrangements, this is where the piano supports the singer. The term piano conductor score is sometimes used interchangeably with piano vocal score. So if somebody says, oh, piano conductor score, you're like, is that the same thing? It's basically the same thing. Piano conductor scores are just typically used to also include other information, like for conducting an orchestra, so a conductor knows when to cue the bass, or like, oh, the violin's coming in on measure 30. It'll have information like that. One thing to remember when writing out your songs is that in musical theater, the piano vocal score reigns supreme. That's because it's the type of sheet music that's most often used in rehearsals, workshops, readings, auditions. So while some of you may have a full picture of a beautiful 29-piece orchestral version of your song, and that is wonderful if you do, it's also very important to always write out a piano vocal version, because this is the version that will follow you through the many rounds of revisions and rewrites of your show. We don't know what the final ensemble for our shows will be. It could be a 12-piece ensemble or just a 3-piece band. But we always know that we have the piano vocal scores of our shows. All right, let's talk about charts. Who's heard the term charts before? Okay. Honestly, this is a term that I didn't come to until later, because I was not, in the jazz band growing up. I think that's where it kind of started. But this is generally a blanket term used for sheet music, but it's most commonly used when talking about parts for individual instruments. So say, for instance, you're scheduling a band rehearsal. It's common to, tell the musicians, hey, I'll be bringing printed charts for everybody. They'll be like, oh, great. Okay, I don't need to bring my iPad. So a full score is, who's heard the term full score? So a full score is kind of what it sounds like, right? It includes all of the instrumental and vocal parts on separate staves. So if you're a conductor or arranger, you can see everything all put together, right? This is most often used by conductors who are not also playing the instrument, not playing piano at the same time, right? Because you don't want to be swiping through or scrolling through 30 pages of a full score when you'd be reading off a piano conductor score in that case. It's also helpful if you're an arranger at a rehearsal and you want to reference that score as a whole, right? So if you're an arranger or if you're the songwriter and you're listening to a rehearsal, you say, "Oh, I heard something a little off at, measure 50. I can see the bass is here. Oh, maybe can I hear that bass part?" Right? So it comes in handy there. All right, let's go over some of the symbols you will find in sheet music. First off, do we have any questions so far? No? Okay, I'll keep going. So we'll go over some symbols you'll find in sheet music. First, we have the staff, which are the 5 lines and 4 spaces where notes and symbols are written, right? Clefs indicate the pitch range of the notes. You might be familiar with treble clef, which is used for higher pitches, and bass clef, which is used for lower pitches. A pitch is another word for a musical sound, and a note is the symbol on that staff that represents the pitch. Notes have different shapes to indicate how long they should be played. So whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, and where a note is positioned vertically on the staff determines their pitch. And then a chord is a group of 3 or more notes played together or in sequence. Chords provide harmony and structure to music. A 3-note chord, the most common type of chord, is called a triad. And common types of triad chords include a major, minor, diminished, and augmented triad. Again, any questions so far about these symbols? You can either type them or unmute yourself to ask. It could be super basic. It could be anything really. Anything you want to add maybe? Here are some other symbols you'll notice in sheet music. These all give us information about how the song is to be played. A key signature tells us what key we're in. Key signatures can be either major or minor. For example, a key signature with no sharps or flats, only white keys on the piano, is C major, but it could also be A minor. That is the case for all key signatures. So the time signature tells us the number of notes in each measure, indicating the rhythm of the piece. A time signature has a top number, which is how many beats fit in each measure, and then the bottom number tells us which note gets the beat. For example, 4/4, also known as common time, because it's the most common time signature, has 4 quarter notes for each measure. There are also tempo markings, which tell us the speed at which a song should be played. For example, I know that quarter note equals 120 means that there are 120 quarter notes played per minute. Another way to say this is 120 BPM, beats per minute. The tempo marking can also indicate the intention or emotion for how the speed of the song should feel. So if a tempo marking says con la voce, I know that the accompaniment is meant to follow the voice. Dynamics. Dynamics tell us how loud or soft specific notes should be played. For example, if something is marked forte with an F, it's to be played loudly, and if something is marked piano with a P, it's to be played softly. And note articulations tell us how a single note should be played. So for instance, if it says staccato, I know it's to be played short, accented, tenuto. These all indicate how a single note should be played. So all of these symbols give us information on the page about how to play or interpret the song. Any questions before we jump into the next part? I know I'm throwing a lot of information. A lot of it, if you're familiar, may seem basic, but if we dig deeper, there's a wealth of knowledge to be gained even by the simplest things. Any questions so far? Yeah, Audrey.
What are the articulations used for again?
So articulations are indicating how a single note should be played. So for instance, if we look at the example, those C's have staccatos on them. So I know that they're being played short. So I got my MIDI keyboard down here, so I know it's right. I know those C's are played short. Any other questions so far? All right.
So we're going to take a moment now for Dylan to share his screen. And as we transition, reminding you all that you can check out Module 5 all about music notation from the NAMP Songwriting Resource Center. You can find that at namp.org/module5. This module will be a helpful guide during this event and afterwards.
All right, so we are going to look at two different examples of sheet music. Just to kind of understand what's on the page and how to interpret it. First example we're going to listen to is a song called How Long Does It Take to Drown from my musical The Pelican, which was in NAMP's Festival of New Musicals a few years ago. This is the I Want song for the show, where our lead character Zephyr reflects on her life and her desire for change. So keep an eye out for notation ideas that we've discussed, tempo markings, time signatures, key signatures, chords, etc. But also look out for other things that stick out, maybe tempo alterations, just anything else that may stick out, maybe notes and chords that fall out of the key signature. I will play this video, which is actually from the Challenge concert last year, where Desi Oakley sang this song. So this is How Long Does It Take to Drown? I'm only going to play up until maybe the beginning of the bridge, and then we'll go back and discuss what we heard. Pelican.
I was born with my feet in the water. I was born with my toes in the sand. And the tide has been rising since long before I could stand. I was born with the sneaking suspicion that I'd never get out of this place. I don't know what I want, but I know that I don't want this. I stand still, but I'm sinking and sinking. Every minute, another inch more. I can feel the water surrounding me. I give in. I drop down. But how long does it take to drown? How long does it take to drown? I grew up with my skin in the sunshine, thinking someday I'd swim through the clouds, but I never could lift off from this ground. So I learned to walk through the water, pushing weight with both of my knees, wondering who put the anchors around my feet. Guess I'll sink with this town. But how long does it take to drown? How long does it take to drown? I note every passing boat, and I shout, cast your net, come pull me out of this hell, where numbness knows me well.
All right, we're gonna pause there. And let's just go back to the beginning and kind of take a look at what we saw. Um, all right, so let's
Dylan, I
start
also
off.
think you can make the sheet music a little bit bigger now if you want, so we
Absolutely.
can see it even closer. Amazing.
Perfect. Um, so to start off with, what kind of sheet music is this? There's a big clue in the top left corner. Piano conductor score, and we know that that is basically synonymous with a piano vocal score. You may also hear, when you get out into the real world, a PV score or a PC score. Those are just abbreviations for the same thing. So I start off with, well, what time signature are we in? Feel free to just jump in. 4/4, exactly. And we are in A major, indicated right here, right, with these three sharps. And for the tempo marking, the initial tempo marking I give is with brooding motion, quarter note equals 140. So I want a little, this is mainly to give the actor something just a little more to chew on, even though, you know, this could be for an audition or it could be for a show, but this is for the actor to know a little bit of intent behind the song, why they're singing it. It's also giving the musicians intent for how they should be playing it, thoughts maybe that they can be bringing, like what does that mean to them. But again, the imperfection is in that is up for interpretation beyond, of course, quarter note equals 140. But even in a live music arena, which is what theater is, unless they have headphones kind of piping in a tempo marking, that is also up for interpretation. For instance, the recording we just heard, that was taken much faster, I believe, than 140. That was about 148, 150. But again, it was their interpretation of that tempo marking. All right, this is a fun one. There is a typo in one of these measures. Can anyone spot it? I'll give you a clue. It's in the chord symbols. It's in measure 7. So it's basically just that this A is right now looking like it's starting on the end of 1 when it should be starting on the downbeat, right? That's a mistake that I will revise in later versions. But this is already a song that I have revised the sheet music for 6, 7 times, and still something like this goes by undetected. This is just showing that, again, don't let perfection get in the way. Keep going. You will continue to revise. With that said, also these chord symbols are up for interpretation. For instance, this is a revision from January 21st. In a revision from just last week, I changed these chord symbols. So, right, we have and in this version I put A sus2 to indicating that this is where harmonically we're hearing a change, which I still agree with, but I've decided in a new version to get even more granular with it and call this A sus4, and then right here it goes to A sus2. And even chord symbols can be up for interpretation. So there are camps where you would call this chord an A sus or an A sus4. There are also camps where this would be called A sus2 or A add2. So again, these are all interpretive, but we're just trying to get as close as we can to the vision that we have in our heads, putting it on page so that live people can interpret it, right? And then again, right here, we're going outside of the key signature right away. A minor, G, G sus. Sometimes, especially as composers, we're not, it can be easy if we're just, oh, we're just a pianist, we're a singer interpreting music. But as composers and lyricists, we are trying to actually solidify something as, you know, floaty and nonsensical sometimes as music, right? It's magical, sometimes it can't be pinned down, but we're trying to pin it down with this, right? So it's easy to get in even my own head of saying, okay, sure, we're starting in A major, but then in measure 11, we have an A minor chord. How do I validate that, right? And then we go to G, because I still feel like A major is home, right? So I'm making the decision to say, this is an A major, this feels like it is not home. So therefore, I'm going to say we are still in A major, and these are just chords and notes that are occurring outside of the key signature temporarily, right? Let's dive a little deeper, right? Piano conductor score. So right here, measure 22, we see plus bass and drums. I know that's where the bass and drums come in. So I'm playing and I know, okay, I'm about to cue bass and drums, right? Going even deeper. So we have these right here, and these are dynamic alterations, right? So I know that I'm not going from, where's the first dynamic marking? Mezzo piano necessarily straight to a mezzo forte right here. There is a poco crescendo, right? A little crescendo. I know there's going to be a little build. Right? Just giving little breadcrumbs indicating how I want this to be interpreted. And then hopefully the performer will hear our vision, right? Our vision as the composer. How about this weird chord symbol right here? Any thoughts on this? D minor with a 6 over a 9. Has anyone seen this before? Yeah. Exactly. So the 6th and the 9, and it's not talking about the scale degrees, it's talking about the 6th and 9 of what they would be in D minor, which would be a B and an E, right? So even this chord alone, I went back and forth a lot, right? Because if you just look at the chord, it's a D minor 6 chord, right? There's no 9 in it. But in the vocals, she's singing the 9. So I determined harmonically, I want the pianist to know what is happening functionally also in the vocals, right? So it's being interpreted as a D minor with a 6 over a 9. Okay. And then even here, again, things to note with tempo markings at measure 42, it doesn't necessarily need to be just a difference in how the quarter note is being interpreted. It could be a difference in feel, right? We're getting slightly brighter. So I know as a musician interpreting this music that I'm going to... So maybe it does get a little faster, or maybe I interpret that that's just an emotional brightness, right? Just one more thing about this before we move on is the idea of other voices within the accompaniment, right? So at 68, when we get into the bridge, even though we're, as you know, a pianist, we're only playing with two hands, we can also, in a piano vocal score, it's helpful to put in other lines. So in the bass, right, this could be interpreted by an arranger as a cello line, maybe, right? So I would look at this and I would say, oh, this D would be held by the bass, but then, oh, here's another voice. Maybe this is what a cello will do. I would also look at this and look at the top line of the right hand, right? We have this A. I say, oh, maybe that's what a violin would be doing, because this feels like. So just different things to think about when doing a piano vocal. Even if you're not writing your music specifically for piano, if you wrote it on guitar and you are doing a piano vocal arrangement, these are things to think about that will be helpful as your musical progresses. All right, so let's jump to another song. To a new song from my new show, Pottersfield. I'm going to just pull up a lyric sheet. And this is a very kind of short song that is sung by the mother character in this show. Don't need to know too much about it, but it's a motif that comes in and out of the show. And I have just done a quick demo with myself singing it. I'm not too concerned about the key signature yet, right? Because I'm singing it, it's going to be for the mother. It's probably going to change keys. I threw some strings on it, a few sound effects. So let's take a listen. Little life of mine, forever part of me, here now always, wonder of the world, you have set me free, here and now. Patterns in your eyes are only mine to see, who we are within this moment's all we'll ever need to be. Shadows grow as day goes on, and night is coming soon, but my light will never dim on you. A little life of mine, forever part of me, here now always. And she kind of fades into the abyss. So if I want to get just this idea down as quickly as possible, I don't want to be bogged down in transcribing the piano. I don't even know if that's going to be the final piano yet. I'm going to pull up Dorico. Dorico is actually, I feel like I was meaning to talk about this a bit at some point. But basically, if anyone kind of heard last year, the entire industry was on a sheet music writing software called Finale. It is what I grew up with writing. I spent many years working with it, became an expert in it, and they said they are discontinuing Finale, right? The entire musical theater industry is on Finale. And so there was a big scramble, and they said, we are formally endorsing Dorico. So we now all of a sudden have to become experts at Dorico. But again, the thing to remember is the fundamentals of notation are always there, right? So regardless of the program and figuring it out, as long as we know the general understanding of the nuance of notation, we can jump in, right? So there are other programs. MuseScore is one that's very popular. It's free. Dorico has a free version. It does have a free trial as well. I would say Dorico is slowly becoming the industry standard. So it would definitely be worth the investment if you are curious to jump in. So I have built a template. I'm going to start with no key signature, no time signature, just to give us a clean slate, right? And build from there. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save as. So I'm going to put this on my desktop. This is here now, always. I'm going to say it's the lead sheet. And I'm going to give it a date. Now you will say, Dylan, this is a weird way to date something, but I will say you will have 3,000 different versions of your sheet music throughout the years. I date things like this because I can always sort them in order. So if I put the month first, then the date, then the year, I will get everything that I wrote in January 1st. It doesn't matter what year, but I want to be able to see the newest. So I always do year, then month, then date, and all of my stuff is always in chronological order. I will save. And now what do? We just we have one measure, we have voice. I'm going to start off by figuring out what the tempo is, right? And what the meter is. So let's see. I have this little free app called Pro Metronome. I am going to bring up the demo again. And I've tapped and I find it's about quarter note equals 86. So I'm going to say, actually, let me give the meter first. So I would say this is in common time, right? I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. But I don't necessarily want that to be how it's interpreted, right? I want the performer to feel the half note, right? Little life of mine, 2, 3, 4. So I am going to put this in 2/2. And I'm going to have the tempo marking be slow and bittersweet. Quarter note equals 86, not 856. All right, let's add 50 measures, okay? And let's hold off on a key signature for now. So let's just start inputting some notes. And let's go back here. Three, 4. So this measure, this kind of throws us off a bit, right? It's like, I feel like this is landing on the 1, but I like this looking how it is. So I think we have a half measure here, right? So let me throw in a measure of 1/2, and then it switches back to 2/2. Oh, let's put it right here. Oh, let's move it over. Boop, 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 boom. Meter 2/2. And then let's get rid of that. And then we have the B section. Let's wait. The shadows grow as day goes on. Let's do that again. Yep. And that's a quarter note. And then we have the end. Always. All right, a really rough sketch, and now I'm going to go here. I know that kind of fades out in the demo, but for the purpose of this lead sheet that we're creating, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. All right, so now let's go ahead and type in some of the lyrics just so I have some clarity of where I am in this song, right? Boop, boop, boop. Let's put that over here. All right, so now I'm going to input some lyrics. Little life of mine. Right off the bat, we have to reinterpret this, right? Because it's now in sentence form, not in poem form, as you want to say, right? So we're putting it in prose. So I'll be adding commas and semicolons and colons that aren't necessarily in a lyric sheet. And again, nothing is permanent. We're just interpreting it in the moment to get something down, and we can always change it later. So little life of mine, forever, part of me, here, now, always. Wonder of the world, you have set me free, here and now. Patterns in your eyes are only mine to see. Who we are within this moment's all will ever need to be. And now we have the B section, right? All right, so I know that this is a B section. I'm going to indicate a double bar mark, and I'm also going to put in a rehearsal mark. This is something we didn't really touch on much in the examples. Rehearsal markings are so important, right? We could be running a song, be like, man, that middle section just like is really sticking out. I want to go back there and have the band just do that part. So we say, band, can everyone jump to 15, measure 15? And we know where we're going to jump into, right? All right, so then shadows grow as day goes on and night is coming soon, but my light will never dim on you. And again, we have the end of the B section. Let's put another double bar line and indicate it with another rehearsal mark. So we can jump right in. Hey, let's just run the end. All right, and then little life of mine, forever part of me, here, now, always. All right, So now let's come back. We have the lyrics in, we can get rid of this lyric sheet. Boom, now we're just down to one document. So just time's sake, let's run through the chords really quick. So I know it kind of goes. So we have another weird thing, right? Where the first chord is G major. Yet we have the second chord as C minor. And I know that C minor is not in G major. And then the third chord after G, E flat major, F major, and then G major. So again, this is the thing where, like, when we're in the moment, we come up with something, and then when we're trying to write it down, saying, well, what am I doing here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say that even though the first chord is G major, this is actually in G minor. So the first chord is outside of the key signature. And I'm doing that just because everything else around it, right? All the other data I'm getting from the other chords that I've written are telling me it's in G minor, right? So even though this first chord is G major, that C minor is telling me that it's G minor. And then E flat, F, and then this goes back to G. I'll say this is a G sus2, G, G, C minor. You have set me free. So we have a repetition of the phrase, and now we have a third to C. We think we're going to do the same thing again, and now we finally get G minor here, right? Who we are within this moment, all we'll ever need to be. So, within this moment's all we'll ever need to be. Okay. So now we feel like we're on the fifth, right? We're on D, the dominant of G minor. And now what did I do? Now we go to an F major, but it feels different, right? All right. So I am going to go ahead and say that even though we, in general, it's not great to be bouncing in and out of key signatures, I do think the intention here is that each measure of this bridge is going in and out of a different key signature, right? So we have, and so each of those phrases is, I'm going to put in a different key. So I'm going to interpret this as being in B flat minor, and then this in A flat minor, so we go down a whole step, and then this going down another whole step into F sharp minor. All right, so now let's add in the chords here. F to B flat minor, and then this is E flat to A flat minor, and then this is C sharp to F sharp, E to B. Now before we move on from this, I'll also notice that since I've been getting in and editing, right, and now all of a sudden I'm doing this crazy stuff, I think this is an A flat minor. So I'm going to replay these in so that I can interpret these sharp notes as flat notes. So this is actually, right? And then here, is actually. There, now we're actually in these new keys that we've set up. And then finally, for this last one, we are back to G minor. And we'll write these chords in. G, forever part of me, here, now, G sus2, G. All right, so we have the song here, right? How do we get to print it out, right? So I will open this up. So I've already created a basic template that if you're in Dorico, there's one way to do it, but again, this isn't a Dorico tutorial. These can be applied to any software that you use. Figure out a template that you like, that you think looks good, and then you can just use it for all of your projects, right? You could just reuse. So I now have the name of the musical, Potter's Field. This is my co-lyricist, Will Lacker. I'm the composer. Great, we have the copyright. And I am going to plug in the song title here, Now Always. And I'm going to put in my weird date marking, 2025-03-24. And I know this is probably going to be song number 8 in the show, but that will absolutely change as we write more songs for it and figure out the story more. So I'm going to apply, go to close. Great, we've propagated the field. Looking good. Let's go ahead and go actually just to the lead sheet. Okay, still looking good. What's this funky thing? Let's go ahead. Why is it? There we go. Let's move this down here. Put in a system break. That's a little more legible for everyone. Great. Let's go to print. Let's go to the lead sheet. Let me double check everything. Everything's looking good. I would normally put in a dynamic marking, but because this is a lead sheet, I'm going to also assume that the demo comes into play, so they'll be listening to the demo. And also, right now, for the sake of it, this is just for me, so I don't forget it, right? This is, okay, so let's print it out. Let's print a PDF, save as PDF. Great, I have my date. And now let's see what it looks like as a PDF. There we go. We just created this from scratch. Any thoughts, questions?
A reminder to check out the NAMP Songwriting Resource Center at namp.org/rewriting, especially that Module 5. As we discussed, Module 5 includes a lot of the different types of notation software you can use and download for different price ranges from free to free versions, etc. as you experiment with learning how to use notation, and also a couple other tips and tricks. And you'll also find the recording from tonight's event there later. Please save the dates for upcoming challenge events. Next week, we have the Collab Lab on Monday, March 31st from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then the week after that, we have Spring Break Song Share on Monday, April 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. You can register now for those events at namp.org/rewriting. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Dylan, for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge on all things music notation. We'll see you all next Monday night for the Collab Lab. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great night.